Welcome back. You're watching Startup Central with me, Nayantara, working from home in New Delhi. Before the commercial break, we played you our exclusive interview with Sanjeev Bikhchandani of InfoEdge India. Remember, he's built solid companies. He's one of the best, most respected investors that we have in the startup community as well, raising a very pertinent point about flipping, how companies are changing their domiciles. I'm going to be taking that conversation forward with Mohandas as well as Ganesh. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of Startup Central. Mohandas, I'm going to come to you first. The reason I'm coming to you first is because you have co-founded Infosys, a jewel in India's IT ecosystem. And in fact, Sanjeev Bikhchandani used Infosys as one of his examples also while talking about flipping, saying, can you imagine if Infosys had flipped? What would have happened? How India is losing out on so much of its IP. There's nothing wrong with foreign capital, but why are Indian entrepreneurs doing this, and a serious objection that he has raised? If I could first get your initial reaction, because you have, of course, co-founded Infi, and that's one of the examples that Sanjeev Bikhchandani used.
Look, Infi is here, worth 65-70 billion. TCS is here, 145 billion. Wipro is here, worth 45 billion. HCL is here, worth maybe 35 billion. Tech Mahindra, the service companies are all headquartered here, have global operations. So there's no reason for them to flip. Why are startups flipping today? Startups are flipping today because global investors tell them that if you flip, we'll give you more capital. It's easier to do it. Come to Singapore, come to Delaware, come somewhere else. Because, there is a problem with the Reserve Bank of India. There's a problem with Indian tax. And there's a problem with our regulations. Let me explain that. Now, with Reserve Bank of India, there are regulations that are not very clear. For example, if anybody gets in capital, you have to file a lot of returns. You got to have a lot of KYC. It takes time. And tomorrow, when you sell the company, again, you got to write to RBI. You got to get some approvals to come. And RBI doesn't reply to you. If you write letters to them, they don't reply. They don't have a time limit to reply. One of our startups wanted to raise some capital, and they had to write to RBI for approval. RBI did not reply for a year. And then you had to appoint some big consultants, pay them a lot of money to go to Bombay and go behind RBI to get it. That's not the way for RBI to work. There's a problem there because this is not policy matter. There's a matter of customer service. So RBI is a problem. We raised it with Dr. Raghuram Rajan from iSpirit. He did some things. We raised it with Dr. Shaktikanta Das too. He has promised to do something when I met him because he said he'll look into the matter, return letters. There's a funny thing called round tripping. Let me tell you, Ganesh also knows about it. If you're an Indian company, you buy a US company, and the US company has an Indian subsidiary, is deemed to be round flipping, and you have to go beyond RBI and get an approval. Why should you go beyond RBI and get an approval? I mean, it should be very clear, right? And RBI said that's round flipping, despite having $575 billion of reserves and dollars, they don't know what to do with the dollars. It's very antiquated. Then you got the taxmen. If you're a company registered in India, they go after you, they pass all kind of orders. That's why it's called tax tourism. 9,50,000 crore is stuck up in disputes. Now, not only assessment is gone wrong, appeals are also wrong. Appeals take you 10 to 15 years to get settled. Who wants to deal with the appeal system in this country? Because the taxman can go berserk, he can do whatever he wants. Look at all the Flipkart founders. So many of them have suffered. We are also suffering in many ways. Assessments don't get completed. Appeal to the commissioner takes 2 or 3 years, is stuck there. And then you go to tribunal 2 or 3 years, High Court 5 to 8 years, Supreme Court 3 to 4 years. And my experience is when you go to Supreme Court, even after getting an order, they don't give effect to the order. We had to go to court to get a contempt petition for not putting the Supreme Court order. The finance minister said she'll stop it. She has not done much to stop it. And now they have this face assessment, but they have not changed the behavior. So the major problem for people to invest in this country from RBI, we have to change regulations. We have to make it easier. And I think this is happening. And many investors say, you come outside, form a company, you can reside here, transfer the IP, do everything, and we are fine to invest. And today, sadly, let me also tell you the last point, 90% of capital coming here comes from foreign capital. When there's no capital in this country, the big companies don't invest. Government does not even fund the 10,000 crore SIDBI fund. They delay it. They can't give money to others. What do? We're all desperate for capital. And when somebody says you come overseas and do that, we'll flip. That's the only way to do. Yes, you can build an Infosys, you can do that. But those were different eras. Now we need money, lots of money. Capital is not available. So I think, it's happening. It's very, very sad. Government should change policy. We gone and met finance ministry officials, sympathetic, they don't do anything. We met DPIT, very sympathetic. They want to help, nothing happens.
Right, I take those points. So these are the problems that we are facing from the regulators as well as the government, central and all of that. So if I can now go across to K. Ganesh. K. Ganesh, so I want to ask you a question on behalf of all the founders and startups here. If there are these challenges that exist, if you have what Mohandas Pai is describing to be antiquated laws, then, from a founder's perspective, why should he or she not do whatever it takes for his or her dream? And if people are indeed willing to put money behind that dream, you can execute your plans. Why should a founder not do it, even if it involves flipping? I'm going to play devil's advocate here and ask you this question.
No, I think it's whatever Mohan said comes out of deep amount of experience and frustration of starting companies, funding companies, and seeing the startup ecosystem very, very closely. I think we should look at the issue from distinct angles. Here, Y Combinator or the foreign investor is not the villain here. Okay, the problem is with our regulations, our tax system, our government, our policies that discourage people to come in. We have had bizarre things like angel tax, retrospective tax, unheard of in any system that you will tax. You have seen the Vodafone case. See, you cannot have a system which is so investor unfriendly and expect a foreign investor or any investor who has got multiple options to come and put money in my Indian founder's pocket. Why would you do it? You and I will not do it. If we were given an option to invest in a country with all these challenges, say in Africa as an example, would you want to do that? No, you have other options. You have other things to do. So the problem is we have huge amount of challenges that Mohan described, which is prohibiting capital from coming in. Kudos to people like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, and Naukri, Sanjeev, and all that who have created services companies during the heydays. Today, companies need capital. Big Basket needs capital. Portia Medical needs capital. We have had each of our companies need capital. I mean, I want to correct. All my companies are incorporated in India. Okay. But if somebody were to come and say that I will give you money, if you come outside, I will go outside. Because it is all the horrors mentioned by Mohan, all of them apply. We have gone through a situation where we waited for an FIPB approval and approval for 18 months on something which is very simple. During that 18 months, the policy changed, it became automatic approval. Still, we had to get approval. Now, it's extremely fortunate in 18 months, the company did not go bust. We had a very patient investor who honored his word over 18-month period, despite having Lehman Brothers going through, because he was a very honorable investor. Otherwise, we would not have a situation. We would not have had a situation like this. I mean, this is really suffering. We have had tax notices. We have had tax refunds stuck. We appeal. Taxmen say that we will win the appeal, but the money is still with them. So it's a horror story. So it is a genuine problem. Unless the problem gets fixed, I will take money from wherever it is available, however it is available. That's the only solution. And please understand, it is not because I want it. I don't want to go through the hassle. I'm an Indian citizen. I hate it when foreign investors make money. I love it.
Right.
Indian public makes money like they have made money in Infosys, like in Naukri, in TCS. I'm proud. It makes me happy. In fact, Flipkart, when the money was billions of dollars were deployed, multiple $1 billion were made, all of it went out. My heart actually feels bad. I wish that value capture was being captured by Indian public, like Infosys shareholder or a TCS shareholder. Unfortunately not. But the villain, don't look at the wrong villain. There is no digital colonization. There is no East India Company. There's no people coming in and all the service. Completely open. Let's fix our problem. Encourage Indian capital to come in. Give tax incentives. Remove the regulations so that we are able to get Indian citizen, common man to participate. Make Indian IPO easy, pain-free. One of the reasons for flipping is I cannot IPO in India if I'm a loss making.
You've in fact preempted my question, K. Ganesh.
Yeah.
You have in fact preempted what I was going to talk about. My next question was to do with IPOs actually, and Mohandas Pai come in, and I'm going to go to K. Ganesh after that. this entire conversation which has been started by Sanjeev Bikhchandani coming out and talking about digital colonization and flipping and all of that is coming against the backdrop also at a time when India and the market, when the Indian government and the market regulator SEBI are looking at foreign listing, overseas listings of India's internet companies, startups, and new age companies. And there is a big problem in the middle that should there be a mandatory dual listing in India. We don't have the depth, I understand, in the Indian markets. We don't understand the internet companies the way they do perhaps at the NASDAQ or that they do in Singapore, all of that. So Mohandas Pai, more than ever now, does India need to come out with its regulations for overseas listings, for Indian listings of startups, so that Indians can also share a part of the growth story, a point that Ganesh was just making.
Look, I'm all for allowing Indians to list wherever they want, so long as the domicile in India. I'm all for that, okay? I want freedom for the Indian entrepreneur list wherever they want, but I don't think it is right to say you can't list in India. Look at the P's in India. FMCG companies have got P's of 60, 65. Look at Sanjeev Bikhchandani's company. Look at his valuation. It's $4.5, $5 billion, right? I mean, look at the multiple they're getting, unbelievable multiples. Sanjeev can raise $1 billion in this country, right? Look at what Reliance did. They raised $26 billion. I don't think this market is illiquid or very small. It goes through up and down. You can always raise money. There is some 25 lakh crores in mutual funds, maybe 10 lakh crores in equity funds. Every year, 2 to 2.5 lakh crores come in. I think the market is there. We got $500 billion of FII money, in FPI money in Indian equities. So the same investors who invest outside come into India too to invest. I don't believe the story. And the story that it's difficult to list is not there. I mean, you can go to SEBI and tell them we want 2, 3, 4, 5 things and we'll list. For example, I had the primary markets committee for SEBI. We've been talking to startups to say, come and tell us what you want to list here. We created a special growth market within NSE, the same market, a classified listing where you can list with easier thing. They should come. They talk a lot, they don't come. The problem is because their investors say, let's go to New York, let's go there. The big bankers say, let's go to New York because maybe, the economics are much better there. But I don't believe that you're at a discount by listing here. If you can raise money here, you can raise money outside, but you should have the freedom. And India should change some more regulations to make it easier for them to list here, which is happening with SEBI. SEBI is very proactive. Go talk to SEBI and tell them we want this. I'm sure they look at it positively because we want these companies to list in India.
Ganesh, I'll give you the final word on this. You've brought up this whole point of how we must get richer with India's unicorns and India's startups. Even if you were to look at today's unicorns that we have in the country, almost half of them have flipped. It's what Mohandas and Pai and I were talking about offline, actually.
Yeah, so, I mean, while I respect Mohan's views on what SEBI is doing and all that, the chances of Indian startup loss-making but growing, listing here and being able to have a good market cap and sustain that particular market cap is still to be proven. I mean, we have seen, for example, if you take education companies which on privately are valued, EdTech, they call it EdTech and valued very, very highly. If you look at education companies in India that are listed, they're all struggling. I mean, take Career Launcher as an example, which went public. So it is a nightmare for Indian startup as of now to list in India and hope that the valuation and the depth of the market and all of that will sustain is my fear. I hope it changes. I hope all the effort that SEBI is putting and Mohan is mentioning, that it changes and we are able to see some Indian startup listing, not profit making, not 20-year-old startup like IndiaMart has done exceedingly well, Naukri has done exceedingly well. We need to do that. But again, that's not the question under discussion here. We need to make India very, very investor and capital friendly so that people are able to come in with stable policies, with very quick decision making, no ambiguity, clear-cut policies that we are able to get resolved. What was mentioned earlier by Mohan, taking 1 year, 2 year, all of that is unfortunate reality with every startup, in every assessment, every tax that needs to go. Clarity, non-ambiguity, quick resolution is a must. After that, then you can insist that foreign capital should come here. Unfortunately, today, we are not in a position. Indian capital is very less. Capital is only available foreign capital. Fortunately, on the positive side of it, the employment is being created in India. The money is being spent in India. The discounts are being given in India. Even if the IP is held by a foreign company, it is a lot of benefits are actually coming to India and to Indian companies. So it's not still all that bad. I would love Indian investor to make money.
Okay. Well, I hope the government is listening. I hope the Reserve Bank is listening. I hope the market regulator is listening. Look at the entrepreneurial spirit we have. We must allow it to be completely unleashed and not be wasted in procedures that don't need to be done, visiting the tax man, ambiguity in laws. With that, gentlemen, I'd like to thank both of you for joining us on this edition of Startup Central and for being so candid.
Thank you.